The smartest person you know is probably the most stuck, not confused, not lost. Stuck because they see too clearly. They understand everything and do nothing, and nobody talks about why. A Russian writer who once stood in front of a firing squad figured it out over 100 years ago. What he discovered about intelligent people is one of the most disturbing psychological truths ever put into words. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the sharpest minds are often the ones that quietly destroy themselves. In the winter of 1849, a 27-year-old writer named Fyodor Dostoevsky was pulled from a prison cell in St. Petersburg and led into the snow. His crime was reading banned political literature. His sentence was death. He stood in the freezing cold and watched two men get tied to posts before him. He waited for his turn. Inside his mind, he had already begun saying goodbye to his own life. Then, at the last moment, a courier arrived on horseback. The Tsar had commuted the sentence. It was theater, a psychological punishment designed to break him. They sent him to Siberia instead. He spent 4 years in a labor camp surrounded by murderers and thieves. He slept in filth. He worked frozen ground. He suffered epileptic seizures with no treatment. He watched men break. He watched men die. And when he came back, he was not the same person. Not broken. Something stranger than broken. Awake. He spent the rest of his life writing about what lives inside the minds of those who think too much. There is a character in one of Dostoevsky's most famous works, a man who lives alone. Not stupid, painfully intelligent. He understands people better than they understand themselves. He sees through pretense. He predicts how conversations will go before they happen. And yet, he does nothing. He lives underground. Not because the world rejected him, because he rejected the world. Because he thought about everything too long. Because every action, when examined closely enough, began to feel meaningless or hypocritical. Because the moment he reached for something, a dozen reasons appeared in his mind for why it wouldn't work, why it wasn't worth it, why he was fooling himself. Dostoevsky called this type of person the man of acute consciousness. He didn't write about him with contempt. He wrote about him with recognition, because the man of acute consciousness sees too much. And that is exactly what destroys him. A simple man wants something. He goes after it. He doesn't stop to ask whether his desire is valid or whether he's deceiving himself about his own motives. He just moves. But the intelligent man pauses, and the pause grows. The pause becomes analysis. The analysis becomes paralysis. And somewhere in the paralysis, the moment passes. This is not weakness. Dostoevsky was precise about that. It is not cowardice. It is not laziness. It is the cost of awareness. The more you understand, the less you move. Because understanding taken past a certain point turns on itself. It doesn't just analyze the world. It starts analyzing you. It starts analyzing the analysis. It becomes recursive, infinite, exhausting. And the person caught inside that loop knows exactly what they should do. They can explain the right decision in perfect detail. And then they don't make it. Not because they don't know, because they know too well. I want to be honest with you for a moment. Not philosophical, just honest. I have watched intelligent people destroy themselves. Not strangers. People I respected. People whose minds genuinely impressed me. I watched someone stay in a relationship they had already diagnosed with perfect accuracy. They could name the attachment style. trace the dysfunction to childhood patterns, explain exactly what was wrong. They understood it completely. They stayed for 3 more years. I watched someone lose an opportunity they had spent 2 years preparing for because on the day it arrived, they found 17 reasons it wasn't the right time. Every reason was valid. Every reason was carefully considered. The opportunity never came back. I watched people who could read a room perfectly sit alone at the edge of it, not because they were unwelcome, because they could anticipate every awkward moment before it happened, every way a conversation could go wrong. So they never started the conversation. The over-awareness became its own kind of cage. There is a specific kind of loneliness that nobody talks about. Not the loneliness of someone who doesn't understand people, the loneliness of someone who understands them too well. You can see clearly why someone behaves the way they do. You can trace their motives, predict their patterns, and you still cannot connect with them, because connection requires surrender, a willingness to not know, to be surprised, to be wrong. And the more clearly you see, the harder that surrender becomes. So you stay at a distance, not cold, just behind glass, seeing everything, feeling everything, unable to quite reach it. If anything in this video has felt uncomfortably familiar, you are not alone. This channel sits with the truths most people walk past. If that matters to you, consider subscribing. We have much further to go. We celebrate intelligence. Think deeply. Question everything. Be curious. And those things are not wrong. But nobody mentions the cost. Nobody tells you there comes a point where your awareness outpaces your ability to process what you are aware of. And when that happens, the excess doesn't vanish. It turns into anxiety, into inaction, into a chronic dissatisfaction with no single clear cause, because it comes from everywhere at once. Nobody tells you the smarter you are, the more creative your self-deception becomes. Not less, more. A sophisticated mind builds sophisticated rationalizations that look identical to clear reasoning from the inside. And nobody tells you that understanding and meaning are not the same thing. You can understand the history of every religion on earth and still wake up at 3 in the morning feeling like nothing matters. There is a self-destruction I want to name directly. The destruction of potential not through failure, but through never trying. I have watched people carry enormous amounts of unlived life. Ideas never started, projects never finished, relationships never fully entered, risks never taken. Not because they were incapable, because they saw too many ways it could go wrong. And over time, that unlived life doesn't stay neutral. It turns into resentment, sometimes depression, often a persistent sense that life is happening to other people. People who are, in your private, honest assessment, less aware than you, less careful, less thoughtful, and somehow they are building things. Somehow they are living, and you are watching, understanding it all perfectly. I want to return to that young man standing in the snow at 27, waiting to die, and then not dying. Dostoevsky wrote that the experience stripped away a certain luxury, the luxury of indefinite time, of waiting until things were clearer, until he understood more, until the conditions were right. In that moment, he was not analyzing. He was not constructing theories. He was not watching himself from a distance. He was simply there, fully, with no protection. And something in that was more real than almost anything he had ever experienced. He spent the rest of his life writing toward that realness, the place where analysis stops and the actual human being begins. I am not telling you to stop thinking. I am not saying intelligence is a flaw. I am saying something quieter than that. At some point, awareness has to be lived with, not just possessed. You are not failing because you are not smart enough. You may be failing precisely because you have thought about it too much. The gap between awareness and living. That is where the quiet destruction happens. Not in dramatic collapse. In the slow accumulation of things you didn't try. People you didn't reach toward. Versions of yourself you talked yourself out of becoming. If you have felt that gap, I want to hear it. What is the one thing you understood perfectly, but still could not make yourself do? Leave it below. Sometimes naming it out loud is the first crack in the glass. And if this reached something real in you, subscribe. This conversation is far from over.